about poor me all alone. I tell them not to fret, I am really doing fine. Just don't send me no Valentine. I've been in love before, and I know just how it feels to dangle like a puppet when you fall head over heels. Your heart is left hanging like some laundry on a line. Don't send me no Valentine. I've been in love before, but I really don't recall. I'm shell-shocked and dumbstruck at the misery of it all. Leave your flowers at the door, put your candy on the shelf. I ain't running no bed and breakfast, I'm real happy by myself. You could try to change my mind, just don't send me no Valentine. Mama, I don't need no diamond ring. Don't bother with your trash talk, cause I ain't no Las Vegas kind of fling. Rejection and deception, they seem to happen every time. So don't send me no Valentine. I've been married once or twice, but I really don't recall. I'm shell-shocked and dumbstruck at the misery of it all. Leave your flowers at the door, put your candy on the shelf. I ain't running no bed and breakfast, I'm real happy by myself. You could try to change my mind, just don't send me no Valentine. You could try to change my mind, just don't send me no Valentine. I don't want no Valentine. I don't need your Valentine, I just need some peace of mind. I'm doing just fine. Don't send me no Valentine. I don't.
So I'm sitting here looking at High Heel Blues and thinking, well, there's more tracks on there than I'm likely to play on air. But you've got a diversity of styles, Cheryl, which has probably matured in the last few years.
Well, you know, with the two-song Choir Boys, it's been, I had two other CDs before High Heel Blues, and, you know, just trying to find your own sound and trying to find music that you kind of, and for me, it's always been about live. Like, I'm way better live than I am in the studio, and I feed off of the adrenaline of a live audience so much so that I have trouble duplicating that energy in the studio. But with the two-song Choir Boys, I met them about 10 years ago, and they've got such a gentle sort of sound to them, and I've got such a rough edge to my voice, so that it's a really nice compliment for myself, and as a writing partner. Ray is my writing partner, and he's just they're just gentle people and just great kind of, and that makes a difference. You know, when you get to this age, you really don't want to have to put up with ego, and you know, you want to be able to be respectful to each other's opinions, and it's just a really nice, and that makes so you know, whether that's a writing style or whether that's just a maturity coming to appreciate what you got, you know what I mean? It's just it's a pleasure no matter what way I look at it, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the chemistry, you can hear the chemistry in the music, Cheryl, can't you? The way you guys sort of dovetail together.
I think so, and the harmonies too. I mean, we're trying to make it different sound. You know, we're it's really hard to put, we're, you know, sort of classified as a blues sort of, but we're not, like, but we're acoustic. But I don't really care about labels. It seems everybody else does, though, when they're trying to book you. So it's always a bit of a problem. But yeah, I really like the sound of those guys, and I love when we get to write too. It's because it's different. You know, it's not something that you can put your finger on. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. Thank you very much.
No, well, thank you. And I'm hearing again from the amazing response when I posted the clip of you singing "It Should Have Been Me" from maybe a number of years ago. But I've never seen.
1986.
Say it quietly, Cheryl. Say it quietly.
Hey, I'm proud of that one. I'm telling you, I just got married, and I came back from California, and I had my boots that matched my top, that matched my shirt, and I was like all Madonna'd out, you know, and I can't stand her, but I love the ways that she kind of had her own look on stage. And I was, you know, thinking, this is because back then, I mean, that was one of the first videos I'd ever seen shot like live like that. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. But that was a heck of a band. They were fun.
No, it just astounded me. I mean, well, in a nice way. When I often post videos of artists from the 60s, often, pardon me, well-known artists to the UK market. And this is where we have to do a job on you. I've got to start playing Cheryl Lescom music on the radio. So everybody now, because I posted a couple of your clips on a vintage R&P site that I'm a member of, and I got about a dozen likes on there from people saying, where did this lady come from? So, you know, we've got a lot of discovering to do.
It's, you know, hey, better late than never.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, from the choice of repertoire also, I mean, the cuts on YouTube, It Should Have Been Me, Loving Arms has been kind of nicely done to death. Everybody's done that. But your version has its own eclectic style, and you're moving into a diversity of styles on the Well Played album. Again, the kind of the humor in the music, Crackers in Bed, and that sort of, you've got songs with lyrics that kind of tell amusing life stories in a way.
Yeah, I was really hoping that was what was going to come across as far as Well Played goes, because it's an album about getting, you know, right from the very first song, Nobody's Victim, and then, you know, Wise Old Owl. It is about getting older and about the appreciation or the non-appreciation of that whole venture. You know, so.
Did you have a lot of fun selecting the material for that, and B, sequencing it as well?
We wrote that CD in a matter of about 3 years, and I was gonna put it out without drums, and then the COVID came, and I thought, you know, I'd like to make it just a little bit heavier, because the one album that you've got there from the Two Song Choir Boys, the very first one that we did, doesn't have any drums on it. So, you know, and we kind of play it acoustically. We kind of do whatever the budget allows. So a lot of times, 3-piece and or 4-piece without drums, because we've got Chris on the washboard. So it's, I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this, but anyway.
But this is this is how your musical thing evolves, isn't it? That you go in with a plain sheet of paper, and you come out with an album of 15 tracks, because you with your imagery and your musical skills, and the boys behind you have kind of got an idea of how they want to go, and it all kind of meshes together.
Well, I write the music. I write the lyrics, and I sort of have a vision of where I want it to go as far as melody wise. So then myself and Ray get together, and Ray and I make the song, and then we take it to the guys to sprinkle fairy dust on it, and they do. You know, just the change of when it becomes from an idea to something, you know, material, and then something that's special, because we've all contributed something special to it. And so I really feel privileged just to be able to start the process, you know, and especially I've got a pretty sick sense of humor, and I really, at this age, I just want to have a good time. And you know, women, I think, and I, you know, hate to be general here, but I am going to be. So I think women listen to lyrics a little bit more than men do. And they, you know, I wanted it to come across, you know, with a little bit of sense of humor anyway.
I think this is a huge part now that is missing from music, Cheryl, is the humor in the music. I'm thinking back to, it was the anniversary of Louis Jordan's passing at the weekend. Louis Jordan had a huge heritage of humor in music. Joe Tex continued that into humor in music.
Yeah.
Huey Smith and the Clowns did to a large degree, but since then it's all gone too serious. So you guys having a laugh with it is a great pleasure on the ear.
Oh, thank you. And especially now, you know, right now we need a little bit of joy. And there's, you know, there's a lot of stuff to be said, and there's a lot of, you know, music. I mean, in the 60s when we were younger, we wanted our music to, you know, stir the soul and to rise and make a point. And we had a message in our music. I think that we really tried to convey our emotions and our sentiment as far as the way we felt about war and peace and love and sex and drugs, and everything was in the music. And now there's just so much out there that you can get your, you know, stimulation from. That music is, for me right now, it's got to be more than, you know, I don't want to, I'm done fighting. I'm done. Like, you know, flag, white flag, here I go. I don't want to have a fight about anything. I just want to have fun. And, you know, I hope that, you know, and have a sense of humor about it. I don't want it to be too serious, but that comes with age. You know, I think that's the privilege of getting older, you know.
That's the maturity factor coming through, Cheryl, that you know you've been there and done it, and now you can actually enjoy the fruits of what you experienced.
Absolutely. All the good and the bad of it all. I mean, it's just, it's, you know, it's, it's funny now.
Going back a little while, when you were growing up at a similar time to I was. I'm only, this sounds bad, I'm only a few years older than you, but so you've grown up with like a 60s heritage. Who were you listening to when you were actually growing up as a girl and getting your musical background or influence, Cheryl?
Well, in the early 60s, of course, the Beatles and, you know, all the Supremes, the girl groups. I live in a place called Kitchener, which is just southwestern Ontario. And if you went to the very top of the hill in town, you could get Windsor and Detroit radio stations. And so that Motown sort of sound and those girl groups of the early 60s. Dusty Springfield was a huge influence when she came out in the mid 60s. And then, you know, and then I caught on to Etta James and, you know, Aretha Franklin and the black soulful sort of gospel-based singers of the late 60s and the mid. But then, you know, came Janis Joplin, and I saw her in the late 60s, and she changed my life. I mean, as far as just what she could do with that voice. I mean, it wasn't even, you weren't even supposed to do that stuff, you know. So then you go into the closet and start playing with different voices that you don't even know you have. And it just kind of opened up a different hemisphere as far as what you could do with your voice. It wasn't something operatic, that's for sure. And it wasn't something that was classical or trained, but it was something that was organic and earthy and soulful. And so that, it was basically the 60s that took me into every other part of my life, everything. 60s, you know, I mean, we were lucky. I wouldn't want to be a kid now.
Well, no, that's another thing. I'm glad I'm old, because I experienced all these things first time out, as did your good self in a slightly later era, but only by a few years. But you mentioned Janis Joplin there. Janice to the UK blues market was kind of an anathema, because she was taking black music and selling it effectively to a white audience, as far as we can see from this side of the pond. But that said, she obviously had a huge influence on showing you what could be done with the female voice with blues music from a white girl, and you made the most of that for sure.
Well, and then there was Robert Plant.
Yes.
And so, like, you know, in the late 60s, I saw Zeppelin like 3 times, and you know, Robert Plant, what he did with his voice also was the same sort of thing that Janice was doing, just using a different technique, a whole different technique. So that was, you know, and that's the stuff that, you know, because I've got, you know, I have nose on my vocal cords and I've got a deep voice, and I was always called the boy talking girl. And so I wasn't anything normal, and I sure wasn't going to sound like Lulu or anybody else that was, you know, Joni's Mitchell was as far away from earth for me as possible. So I had to do what came naturally to me, and the blues, that feeling, that sort of heavy honking, you know, horny, deep down in your soul shit, that really affected me, especially at that age.
Funny you should mention Robert Plant there. I'll just give you a little story with Led Zeppelin. I grew up in southeast London in the early 1960s, and around 1962, 63, we had a new choir master come to our church. He was called John Baldwin, and he lived just down the road from me in Sidcup in Kent. And I was actually christened the same day as him in the local church in Nottingham. And John Baldwin, a couple of years later, became John Paul Jones with Led Zeppelin.
Wow.
So my
Wow.
choir master as a teenager in the church became a rock megastar. So how does that?
Well, and you, I mean, you growing up in London at the time, in England, I mean, you saw everything. You were just, those couple of years before me was the, you know, that's when you saw everything just open right up and like a flower blooming. It must have been amazing for you to be so much a part of the scene.
It was, and in fact, talking with somebody just the other day, a guy who I used to run a fanzine in the mid 1960s, where we were the pioneers of writing about all the touring black artists who came from to the UK, blues men, gospel men and ladies, soul singing, the whole anybody who was an African American musician coming to London, we went to see, and it built up our picture. And Tony Cummings was the fellow's name, and he then took the Christian path. He's now editor of a Christian website, and he said to me, Clive, he said, we were there at the sharp end. We were writing about this stuff before anybody knew about it. Unfortunately, the black folk in London really didn't have any time or feeling for black music at that time, so it was always selling it to the white audience, which worked so well, which is where Berry Gordy made such a lot of money, selling to what he called the white sheet kids, the white Londoners who were buying the Motown music.
Yeah.
And that's how, so we saw the emergence of Motown, the emergence of Stax, and the whole sort of black American music thing of the early, as R&B became soul. I was proud to be up the sharp end hearing all this stuff developing, and still here 50 years later. Still telling
Amen.
the tale.
Amen. And there was there was that whole chess record, that whole Southern sound.
Yes.
Of, you know, that like Otis Redding and Aretha, and that, you know, the Muscle Shoals sort of thing that was going on in the, and that was way different sort of than that bluesy based stuff that was coming out of from Clapton and the Stones, and, you know, in the 60s and the mid 60s and stuff. Yeah, it's just it's amazing that we really do have the best of everything when it came to music and clothes, and I don't know, sex was good too back then too. I'll tell you that. You know that.
But it's funny you should say that.
Oh, you're crazy.
Yeah, all the British bands were all copying the Southside Chicago blues style, which was Mississippi guys migrating up to Chicago, Sonny Boy, Jimmy Reed, all those guys. But then, as you say, the next door to open was the Southern Soul, which was a whole new universe. And then people like, say, Len Chess and Jerry Wexler saw the light and sent get people down to Muscle Shoals to cut in the Southern studios. So the whole chemistry of music changed in the 60s, didn't it? So to build a foundation for what we have now. But what sadly is being lost a lot now, because the mechanical music bit comes in, and you're out there flying the flag with your diversity of styles, but a lot more people have lost, I think, track of what was happening in the 1960s and 70s. And it's kind of got diluted a lot, I think, for current music. Well,
and you know, since Apple computers and stuff, you can be a musician now without knowing anything about music, without doing melody and, you know, worrying about the bridge and thinking about the structure of a song. And, you know, it's just so, I mean, that's good for a lot of people, because a lot of people can express themselves and they've got a lot to say, and some of it's really good stuff. But on the other hand, it's watered down so much, and just like people with a God-given gift is that is just you know, they can't seem to wade through the bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so much of it out there, and it's so temporary, and it's so all about, I mean, with streaming, and, you know, musicians can't make any money anymore, and you know, now with touring, who knows when the heck you're going to be back on the road, and it's you know, really changed the whole dynamic. And I'm really hoping that when this all comes to pass, and it will at some point, you know, I'm really hoping that we get back to the basics a little bit, because we're so streamed to death, and there's so much shit out there. You just can't, like, I can't even believe what passes for music, but then I'm sounding like an old person. And I have two sons that correct me constantly as to, and also educate me into what I'm missing as far as the point of some songs, like the weekend, the Super Bowl performances. There's just all sorts of chatter about the fact that, it wasn't musical. It was all pyrotechnics. It was, and my kids said, yeah, but Mom, it was made for the medium of television, and they have to redefine their whole purpose when you're talking about where the medium is, and you're right there about that. We didn't have to even worry about videos. We just got to be totally immersed in the music, just for the music. And now there's just, you got to have a perfume line, your own dance clothing, and like your own video, and perhaps a movie coming out, and it's just really, I feel bad for that kid that I sent you, that Matt Whiting. He's talented. He's such an old soul, and he's a full-time musician trying to make it out there, and it is tough. And I just I feel for him really, really a lot, because he's got a natural gift that is just scary. And what do you do? What do you do with it? How do you promote yourself now? He's doing live streams every week, but it's not the same. It's just, nothing's the same, like as breathing the same air as the person that's on that stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing now, I was speaking to Samantha Martin is another lady from your part of the world I spoke to about a month ago on Zoom, and she was saying the same thing. And she's doing like Zoom concerts there, which are great, but there's nothing, as you say, replicating the live sound on a video screen it just doesn't come, does it?
No, it doesn't. And Samantha is much like myself. She's all about the live performance, and she's awesome. I've worked with her a few times. She's an awesome talent, and and she's also a woman that has given up having kids and everything for music. Well, I didn't do that, and I wouldn't. And I'm so glad, in looking back on this big picture called life, that I got to kind of not put all of my eggs in one basket. And for a lot of women and musicians that, like Samantha, who's a serious God-given talent, and she's had to make that choice because it's just it's just all consuming now. If you want to make any sort of hit out there and make any sort of living, it's I feel for him. Yeah.
On a positive note, we must draw this to a close very short. The positive note is I'm sitting here looking at the Well Played album, and I shall be between now and this time next week, choosing which half a dozen tracks to from your 4 or 5 albums that I have here to edit into the interview. This is going to be the hard work, the nice work, but the hard work bit. And we're going to see if we can get Well Played. As well as doing this on the radio, I also do a monthly column for Blues in Britain magazine. This came to me about 4 or 5 months ago, when a guy I was working with in the record industry for like 20 years, I've stopped. The only written journalism I've done in the last 20 years has been booklet notes for CDs. I used to do magazine features all the time. And Mark said to me, do you want to do a monthly column for Blues in Britain, which is being relaunched, about what you're playing on the radio? So I said, yes, please. And I started to do it. And it seemed to get down quite well. I did a review on the Reckless one for Samantha a couple of months ago, and they did her as a cover story last month. So now I did the Wild Ducks in the current issue, which is coming out in March. So let's see if we can get Cheryl Lescom on the front page and the front cover of Blues in Britain for April time, Cheryl. And
thank you, Clive. That would be, if you can, that would be so appreciated.
That's my plan. That's my target. So we're going to get the music on the radio, get your name up in lights on the front cover of the Blues in Britain magazine, and Cheryl Lescom, this is your life.
Uh-oh.
Anyway, thank you for the music, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for reaching out. That's so special. And anytime, let's do this.
Thank you. You've got a lovely smile.
Thanks. You have a great day.
Likewise. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye for
Bye.
now. Bye.